Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Denes Boros, and welcome to the World Championship match between Carlsen and Nepo-Carlsen, and this is game 1, and it is actually quite an interesting game. So let's dig on in and let's see what happened. So when we look at this position, started off e4, which isn't a big of a surprise as Nepo's second, who is Leko and probably Karjakin, and you will see there will be some deals that are very similar in the types of preparation, and you'll see similarities, and I'm gonna talk about that in a bit. So e4, this is sort of the beginning phase of the match. They're all just trying to find out what the opponent is planning to do. Now e5, not a huge surprise. You're not surprised to see that, nor are the players. Knight c6, bishop b5, and a6 actually is the first line that is somewhat surprising. In previous matches, Magnus almost always played knight f6, and it could be the case that Magnus A might have found something in the Berlin, or just isn't quite ready to go into those lines just yet. And just an interesting tidbit, we are going to see a match tomorrow where Carlsen is going to play white. So it is possible that we're going to see one e4, and then there's this big question, what did Nepo-Carlsen prepare? And it could be that he's leaving room and just leaving Nepo-Carlsen to play the Berlin so he can inflict those novelties in this system. But back to the game. Carlsen has been playing the Marshall and Marshall type positions for quite a while now, played in a World Championship match, and that is the important topic that I want to talk about, and that is his match versus Karjakin. So bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, and it's interesting what Nepo-Carlsen is doing. He is actually going straight into the main lines and trying to probe Carlsen there. In an earlier match, he faced d3, b5, and these knight c3 systems have been played a lot in the Karjakin match with not much particular success for Karjakin. Rook e1, b5, bishop b3, castles, h3. And talking about Karjakin, he did say a couple of words about his match and what he expects from the Nepo-Carlsen World Championship title match here, and he said that Nepo-Carlsen definitely has a chance. And what I find very fascinating, that h3 was played in that match. Bishop b7 was the move, d3 and d5 with again Marshall type play, which surprised Karjakin then, and it did end up eventually in a draw. So what I kind of notice is that Nepo-Carlsen is having Karjakin on his team, and we might even get a Karjakin versus Carlsen 2.0 from an opening perspective. But talking about opening perspective, here Carlsen uncorked the move knight a5, which is very rare, although have been played by Carlsen earlier this year. Now the original idea is d6, c3, knight a5, bishop c2, and d5. This is called the Gajewski variation, who is incidentally a Polish grandmaster and the second of Vichy Anand. So basically there is a chess evolution that we're seeing here. We see the Gajewski improved, so instead of playing this d5 stutter move, instead he goes knight a5 immediately. The whole point is that black is saying, I am going to get the bishop pair, and that is going to compensate for the lack of pawn, which actually has been proven by chess theory for quite a while that it holds true. Knight takes c5, takes, bishop b7, eyeing up on this diagonal and preparing this d5 break. And you can also state that this knight on e5 is a little bit loose. d3, d5, trying to open up the bishops. E takes d5, queen takes d5. And here again I have to stop for a moment. So there are some rumors going around that Team Nepo-Carlsen is working the computer, a supercomputer, which has been provided by the University of Skolkovo. Now, in these type of positions, even though white may have the advantage, actually winning the position requires immense precision. So non-move ain't gonna be enough for Nepomniachtchi to get the advantage. It has to be a sequence of 10 to 40 very, very accurate moves. So it's interesting if Carlsen's actually banking on this or thinking about this, going for an opening where he has a lot of alley of choosing a move and he's still gonna get away with. Because what Carlsen has here is a long-term compensation. Even though he is down a pawn, any move he makes isn't going to change the evaluation drastically. You go rook e8, rook d8, the evaluation won't swing that much, and there's still a lot of effort to be put in by Nepomniachtchi, who will have to figure out the solution at the board. So, the Skolkovo supercomputer, bait or not? I mean, that's a question, and I'd be happy to hear from you, dear chat, in the comments below. What do you think, if that is a bait from the team Nepomniachtchi, or is it a real thing? They're just being outsmarted at the moment. In any case, Carlsen went for bishop d6, which still gives ample compensation for a black, even though white is undoubtedly better. King f1, rook b8. Now king f1 is this typical move that you can tell is computer preparation. Why would you go king f1? Well, in the long run, in like 10, 15, 20 moves, this king will be useful. Rook fb8, and that's also a very nice one. It was funny at the final press conference there that Nepomniachtchi said, "Oh, I've known about this idea." Well, what a surprise. Computers may have suggested it. Rook b8, queen takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop d2, c5. So black actually is trying to push white back, and as long as white doesn't have enough space, he is unlikely to convert the advantage of that extra pawn, especially as in the long run, these bishops get much, much stronger as the position opens up. Knight f3, rook d8, just slowly improving the position. Knight c3, knight b4, rook c8, knight e2, trying to threaten there, and knight c6. And it was very interesting that some of the commentators were saying that knight c6 somewhat perplexing, but it is a move that is sort of anti-computer. It might not be the best, but it has a point. It controls some important squares on d4 and e5. You are still not ready to break through, and now we go and basically freestyle chess. Bishop e3, knight d7, and bishop f4. And again, that's not the best move. In fact, it is almost giving slightly better chances for Magnus Carlsen. And in this sense, you can see that Carlsen's psychology is working top-notch. He actually avoided the best moves, or the move that wouldn't be really considered by computers but humans, and Nepomniachtchi immediately falters and the position is near equal already. Takes, very good move, creating a doubled pawn, so basically nullifying the chances of any danger for black. Bishop takes, rook c6, and in fact it's getting a bit more dangerous for the white player as the pawns on the king side are a little bit weak and this knight has perspective squares on h4 and d4. Rook e1, knight f5, c3, taking away that square, knight h4. One interesting thing that I want to mention, that Nepo, when he sees that things are crumbling a little bit, he does get a little bit hasty. I felt during when I was watching the game that he played c3 a little bit early on, a little bit too quickly, and that could be something that he has to be on the lookout. He wants to be careful, and if he wants to become a world champion. Knight h4, king f8, not the best move. It turns out to be that g6 is better, but king f8 is reasonable as well, bringing the king closer and avoiding any sort of back rank ideas that could show up after rook ae1. Knight g2, g6, knight d1. So even though black consolidated, that is as much as far as he can go, because there's just not enough firepower to take the d pawn nor the f pawn, although white is also kind of stuck defending those guys. Knight g7, f5, knight d6, b4. Carlsen finds a way through to the other side, trades here, and now the position just hits the equilibrium. Nobody can really make any amends without taking some risks. These pawns on the king side are very, very shaky, but you can't really claim an advantage for black because you have weaknesses of your own, and your king can get exposed as well. So the game kind of ended up in a draw over here. So very, very interesting opening choice by Carlsen. Somewhat surprising decisions by Nepo-Carlsen, and the first freestyle moments wasn't too successful for Nepo. So we're going to see how is he going to fare playing with black. So hope you like this review of the Carlsen and Nepo-Carlsen game, and do let me know if you believe that the Skolkovo University's computer is going to be a game changer or not. I'll be happy to hear that and see that in the comments. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.